Hi, students. This is lecture 5 for SOC 101. We are going to be talking about culture and society. Now, what is culture? As we can see here on the slide, it says that the values, norms, and material characteristics of a given group are the components that make up a culture. Just like the concept of society, the notion of culture is widely used in sociology and other social sciences like anthropology. Culture is one of the most distinctive properties of human social association. Now, when we talk about culture, we must talk about what it consists. Culture consists of the values the members of a group have, the norms they follow, the material goods they create, the languages they use, and the symbol used to construct an understanding of the world, which includes speech and writing. It refers to the ways of life of the individual or group within a society. Now, what is a society? A society is a group of people who live in a particular territory, are subject to a common system of political authority, and are aware of having a distinct identity from other groups. Some societies, such as hunting and gathering societies, are small, numbering no more than a few dozen, as it says here. Others are large, numbering in the millions, like the modern Chinese society. You need to look and think about culture as a toolkit of practices, knowledge, and symbols which are being learned to enable the people within that society to engage and live within that society. So you need to learn how to act, behave, react, uh, and survive in that society. And the way you learn about those things are through culture. Um, Now, in culture, when you are interacting with another person, with a different group of people, you have to refer to a particular script. You use the toolkit that you are getting from culture, right? These values, norms, symbols, these things, and you are able to then form a particular script for that interaction. For example, I would use a particular script to interact with my family and friends, and a particular script to engage with my colleagues. Now, to understand this idea of cultural script better, it would be easier for you to think of culture as a play which has many acts, and these different acts have their own scripts. So when you are having when you come up against different circumstances, different situations, you draw upon a script that you have learned that has worked in a similar situation. For example, with a family member, I might behave a certain way, I might talk about certain things, and I might employ that same script that I used with my family member, my brother, with my friend, right? But I would not be able to draw upon that same script with a possible colleague, or for example, with a student, because the relationship is different. And as a human being, I must understand that and rely on the particular script given the circumstance of our relationship, given the situation of the interaction itself. And then we are able to decide to draw upon a particular script. Now, to understand culture better, let's dive into what culture consists of. As you can see here on the screen, culture is being separated into two parts: non material culture, which is the values, norms, and symbols, and material culture, which are the physical objects itself. Non-material culture, like value, is our abstract ideals that inform our behavior. For example, a moral value that we learn from the ages of 2, 3, or older, that we understand because our parents tell us this fact, and also we see the environment and learn the fact that hurting people or harming people in any possible way is seen as a bad act, which is not okay to do in society, which is not okay to do to another person. So we understand this value, we absorb this, and then we reflect it onto society by behaving in the same manner. This is a common value that is being instigated in all societies around the world, and has had influence even in the laws that we have created, creating punishments for those who break this value, who break this moral code. Norms, as it's written here, are principles of social life as followed by everyone. So what does that mean? A norm is an act or behavior that is accepted by everyone as being the right order or right practice to uphold. For example, an example of this would be here in Bangladesh. When you meet someone, you always say salam. You say salam alaikum, and you say that only because you have observed since you were a child to the present now, that that is how people have behaved with each other, how people greeted each other, and how to begin even an interaction with another person. Another form, an example of this localized to Bangladesh uh, is the respect given to elders. This is a practice here in Bangladesh, but also upheld in spaces like India, Pakistan, and even in spaces in Southeast Asia, where elders are given particular respect due to the fact that they are much older than us. They have been around for much longer. They have experienced more of the world. So we must respect and acknowledge the knowledge that they have, and hence we give them a certain amount of respect and also interact with them in that way by allowing that to come across in how we behave and what words we use around them. We, as you can see here in Bangladesh, we use the word apni when it comes to someone older or showing some form of respect to that person, and we do that to ensure that the social interaction between us, the interaction that was happening in that space, is going to happen according to the social norm of the society that we have decided to include in our culture. Symbols are are can be symbolic meaning, can be given through things like language. For example, we give the a word like table meaning by attaching an object to it. But table itself has no meaning if we do not have something to attach it with. For example, now we know that we all eat on a table. We gave meaning to that word table. We gave meaning to that word eat. Another example is the national flag. Flags are given symbolic meanings which not only represents the country but upholds the ideas of the country. That is why it is so problematic and against the law to burn the flag of a particular country, because it imposes it when you're burning a flag, for example, of Bangladesh, it would imply that you have some negative feelings or 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 bad blood towards that particular nation, and that is only through the symbolic understanding. We are not even considering the actual physical acts or the other factors that may be influencing the the burning of the flag or the creation of the flag or anything of the sort. It's because what meaning we give to that particular act or that particular object. Let's go on to material culture. What is material culture? Material culture are the physical objects that a society creates and is able to influence the life of the people within that society. The examples as given here are clothes, cars, houses. We've seen how here in Bangladesh we have become an even greater urban society, particularly in Dhaka city. But 100 years ago from now, this wasn't the case. We didn't have so many high-rise buildings, but now we do. And we've seen that the advent of these buildings has changed the behavior of the people living in Dhaka city. And this is how objects can indeed influence the way people behave in society. The ability to own a smartphone means that you are able to easily communicate with other people around the world, and that has indeed that the creation, the accessibility to the smartphone has made it possible to interact with people across the world at a faster rate. You can even view them through a screen. This has indeed changed the way we interact with people. So the importance must be noted of objects, of innovations in adding to and changing uh, or influencing the lives of people. If we want to understand culture and if we want to study culture, we must understand cultural appropriation. What is cultural appropriation? Cultural appropriation is the act of borrowing from another culture. And the cultural appropriation itself just means that, but cultural appropriation now is being attached to always a negative connotation. Why is that? Because when you are borrowing from another culture, whatever you are borrowing from another culture can be, and how you are behaving or interacting with what you are borrowing from that culture can be offensive to that culture. For example, it's easy to interact with other societies and other cultures now today. If you learn how to cook pasta, you are interacting with the cooking culture in Italy. If you learn how to make origami, you are interacting with the, with the culture in Japan. But what you do with what you have interact with or borrowed from these cultures are very important. And a main debate that goes on today regarding the offense of these borrowings, on how to go on about this, is articles of clothing or other pieces of garb that has been used in different cultures. The kimono, for example, here you can see there's two ladies in a kimono, but this would be considered less offensive than the person here, the white man in the dreadlock, because by keeping the dreadlock, the black community has spoken about how this the white man yet again is able to take away a representation of black culture and take it and make it into a commodity, and make it into just a fashion, not something that reflects upon the culture that they had or the culture that they represent. It even actually, dreadlocks have a relation to the religious uh, understanding or religious practices that was upheld in the Caribbean. These histories are not considered when people are just doing it for fashion. They're doing it only because they think it looks good, and the real nitty grittiness that reflects upon that particular culture is being lost. Hence, the black community being so offended by a white man that might be donning dreadlocks. An individual can have a differing opinion on what is cultural appropriation, what is not. Both of the pictures here can be seen as cultural appropriation, but both of them cannot be seen as equally offensive. We wear Western clothes right now, and we are culturally appropriating Western uh, clothing and fashion to express ourselves through that. And some of these people believe that they are doing that themselves. They don't have the intention of anything bad at all. But if they are doing it, they must do it. They must be reflexive on their behavior and must understand the historical backing that has led to the kimono being created, that has led people to have dreadlocks in the past. You must consider that and consider how it might be read and offend other communities. To understand this a little bit better on how to better study other cultures, other societies, we must learn about a little bit about ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the tendency to look at other cultures through the lens of one's own culture and hence misrepresent them. So once, if you are a person living in India and you want to go to China to study the people and the culture living there, you will first, you will, it will be very difficult for you to understand the society, the cultural norms, the knowledges of China, since you have never been exposed to it. You may have had little interactions now that the world is globalized and the internet has that information available. But since you are not learning the cultural customs and the values, the symbolic gestures, those things throughout your life, it becomes difficult for you to maybe look at it without considering your own experiences. You always compare it to your own experiences and try to reflect that onto that culture. And this is something that is wrong. We must not do that in our study of culture and societies. And in order to study sociology, we must understand the idea of cultural relativism, which is the practice of judging a society by its own standards. We must study, we must do extensive research on the particular region's customs, values, the symbolic identity given to particular things, the material objects that have shaped these people's lives. For example, the material object of an aktara being available here, and maybe some other instrument in, or the brass drum, the brass trumpets being available in Europe, has created different ideas of what is being represented through our music, the kind of music that we created, and that itself represented our culture because it's our folk music, which is cultural music, which we have passed down through the generations. The music that was made by Lalum was based around these instruments that was available to him in the region. The music made by Beethoven or Mozart was made due to the objects being available to them. So we must take that into consideration when studying sociology. That was the end of lecture 6. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.